Sonny Sutherland has overcome obstacles no parent should be forced to overcome. Witnessing your children stolen by agencies, to be fighting a runaway system for the very possession of your own children. The ability to maintain your composure and stamina over several years back and forth with these agencies, Child Protective Services, law guardians, foster care agencies would bring anyone to tears had they do it themselves. This story has to be told in hopes that no one else might suffer such torture. You're a parent, then suddenly you're a victim, through no fault of your own, unable to maintain the connection that children need from parents. Learning how to stay involved with your kids when a system confiscates them. And your answers will be had today on FIT TV. And I have with me the subject, Sonny Sutherland on my left, who is also a radio host.
Thank you.
On GoProRadio.com, and the title of the show is We the People, I got that right?
Yes.
Okay, and on Sonny's left is Gary Jacobs, our stand-in contributor for Victim of Family Law and Family Law Reformer. Okay, Sonny, you know, just so that we can try as best as we can so they get a feel for what actually happened, I'm going to try and summarize. You had like a 10 or 12 year period to do this, or 8-year period?
It's still going on.
It's still going on?
It's still going on in the federal court, Second Circuit. We're going on our third appeal. We've won a verdict. The first verdict.
But you have your kids back, though?
Yes, my kids are back.
Okay.
My kids were back. They were in the system 7 to 8 years, and they were abused.
And meanwhile, the system said you were the abuser.
While they're supposed to be protecting them from me because I'm the monster, I'm the abuser, they were being abused and neglected and not educated properly and vaccinated, experimented on.
They weren't parented, were they?
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
And moved around into different homes. They were actually, all 6 of my children were in 30 different homes.
Unbelievable.
Throughout the whole city, even out here in Long Island. Yes.
So going from the beginning, what was the first
Well, what prompted
input?
the whole thing is that my 16-year-old teenage daughter drank non-toxic paint in school. And the school wanted me to put her into an inpatient facility. They said there was something wrong with her, that she had expressed suicidal tendencies. I said, she's not crazy, there's nothing wrong with her. I met with the school. I went up to the school and met with the counselor that very day that the incident took place. She had been a runaway. She was trying to locate her mother, and the fact that she was staying with a friend, she was stable, so I was kind of like at ease. I didn't have to chase all over the whole city looking for her, and she was going to school. So she had wanted, this was coming up on Memorial weekend, and she wanted a pair of sneakers, and she wanted money to go visit a friend, and I said, no, I don't have it. And apparently that's what prompted her to do this thing for attention. She craved attention. Well, she was younger. I spoiled her, so maybe that was
well, a lot of kids do that kind of thing. Yeah.
So the school felt that they needed to protect themselves, so they notified the ACS, the Administration for Children's Services, which is CPS everywhere else around the country, that there was an issue. And this Chinese guy came out of nowhere. And
from the agency, from
ACS, knocked on my door, extremely rude, unprofessional, hostile, and I didn't understand it. I was a struggling father, taking care, single father, taking care of my children. I had 6 little ones, and my runaway daughter, who was kind of stable in school. And here's somebody knocking at my door, questioning my ability to be a parent. And I'm like, where's this coming from? Oh, your daughter drank paint in school. I said, well, if she drank paint in school, that means that the school is responsible, not me. Oh, well, we have to check the home. I said, okay, well, you'd have to schedule an appointment.
Let me know if you find any paint.
Right? He wouldn't schedule an appointment. The guy said, he came back a couple of times, and we met in the hallway. He saw my younger children, and I gave him, the names of these younger children and told him what school he went to. He said I was trying to interfere with him doing his job, and I said, you're interfering with me being a parent. I'll give you the general information, what I feel is necessary and you should have, and then we just deal with everything else as it comes along. He felt that that was an insult. I felt that there was something wrong with this guy and he shouldn't be working.
I think you were right.
And went on about my business. Next thing I know, it was 9:30 at night, June 9th, 1997. I get a knock on the door at 9:30 at night, and this guy is standing there with the police claiming to have a warrant, and he wanted to come into my house. And of course I protest, and the name on the warrant weren't my children. And that was the big debate that we were having.
Oh,
at
so
the
you
door.
were able to tell that? No, the one. Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
reason
yeah,
for you
yeah.
not
He
to
showed me
let
the
him in the
warrant.
house.
He didn't want to show me the warrant at first.
They had the wrong house.
Yeah, well, he had the right address,
Yeah.
and the right person, but the wrong children. So I called for supervisors from the police department, and they said, these guys have great power. You have to at least let
People
them in.
need to know the dude.
Yeah.
What you just said, though, that's important. You know, connect with authorities if you have the slightest bit of right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I let him in. He looked at the children. 5 minutes later, oh, we're taking him out. I said, what are you doing? What's wrong? What's the problem?
Why?
Oh, you refuse to cooperate with me. What are you talking about? I'm going to call my supervisor and I'm going to take your children out. They
Call
took
your
my children
supervisor,
out.
bring him down here, and I'll give him a bop on the nose.
Yeah, right? I would love to have done that. What happened was the police were there. The house was loaded with police. They woke my children up. It was a mess. It was like a total mess. I tried to stay calm and cool, and I tried to talk to I asked for the police lieutenant. First,
Yeah.
the sergeant came, then I asked for a police lieutenant. And the lieutenant said, well, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. He refused to give me any documentation to show that he was removing the children, which he was required to do by law, some 701B form.
You found that out later, of course,
yeah,
about the
of
701B, but how did
Yes.
you notice to get him
I don't
to
know,
show the
instinct
documents?
kicked in. This was because I'm not an attorney, and I didn't know nothing about law. My background is electronics, communications.
Kudos to you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
keep
right?
going.
So now we go down to the police precinct, and they give me an affidavit of my children's names, and it was different from the names that were on the warrant. And I said, this can't be right, this can't be correct.
Yeah.
So I'm telling my children all along, before we left out the house, because I escorted them downstairs to the van, I gave them ices and told them to be calm, be cool, it's going to be all right. There's some mistake here. It's obvious this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and everything is going to be resolved. So we get to the precinct, everything wasn't resolved. I had to leave the precinct and leave my children there. So now I'm wondering, I'm going like crazy, what's happening here? What's going on? My children are not home. You know, the first night that you're there without your children, it's like it's the worst night in the world.
Sure.
So now I'm calling all over, trying to find out where they're at. I finally find out that they were in a placement center somewhere on First Avenue and maybe 17th or 10th Street in Manhattan. And
How'd you find that out?
I called everybody I could. I didn't get off the telephone.
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay. I was so eventually someone said, "Yo, your daughter's running around here. She's looking for you," and blah blah blah. But they're okay. Everybody's fine. So okay, that gave me a little bit of comfort until the next morning, which I couldn't sleep all night.
Yeah.
So I'm down at family court trying to find out.
Looking like hell.
Yeah, right. Because I have no sleep.
Yeah.
A toothpick's holding my eyes open. I'm trying to find out why did they remove my children
Yeah.
when the warrant had somebody else's name on it.
Yeah.
And I did that for 3 days straight. So they removed them Monday night on the 9th, and it was Friday the 13th is when they finally heard my case. We went in for 2 minutes, and guess what? I didn't get my kids back. I just got another court date. So it was just a total
From then
nightmare.
it just got worse, right?
It got worse. I sort of kind of believed in the system in the beginning, and I figured if I just go in and tell the truth and that this is some kind of mistake, it was my daughter that drank paint in school, how did you come and remove these children, my children, when you had names of other children on here that probably had a bad history or some kind of, bad record. It was, I'm thinking about it, and I don't even know how I made it this far.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have a job at that point? I mean, how'd you do that and do something else?
I had a job, and I couldn't maintain the job. I was working as an
Surprise,
engineer.
surprise.
Yeah, I was working
You're
as an
doing all
engineer
this
in New
stuff.
Jersey, and I just couldn't do it. It was too much, and I felt that I had to leave my job and concentrate on my children, because this is my family, my legacy, and I just couldn't let this happen. And as everyone knows, it's common knowledge, the foster care system is not a
Yeah.
good place for children to be.
Again, you're saying something that, a lot of people don't know.
Really, about the foster care system.
You said something that, is common knowledge. I'm not sure it is. It should be.
You hear stories all the time about children being abused in foster care. A lot of times there's a financial incentive to take on foster kids, so you don't necessarily get people who are doing it for the right reasons.
Right, they're not doing
I mean,
it
I'm
for
sure
the
there's
right
some,
reason.
but
They don't
a lot
love
of
the children, because a lot of the children have issues because if you take a fish out of water and put a fish in the air where we live and we can survive, the fish is swimming like crazy.
Even if they didn't have issues beforehand, they're going to have issues.
They're having issues because they're in a strange environment.
And they know you aren't abusive.
Right.
So they knew they were just being, wrongfully accusing you.
So it was a long process. I went through the whole family court system, which is really a joke. The family court system has nothing to do with justice. It's all political. It's who you are, who you represent, what party you're with, or a Republican,
they want to
or
accomplish,
a Democrat, or if they like you as a female, or if they feel that you are adhering to their authority as a male. And I guess they felt that me being a very distinguishing black gentleman and not adhering to this ACS person who seemed to have a problem. And I never knew what the problem was until maybe 10 years later, that the ACS person, Timothy Wu.
But you wanted to, your daughter had said that he
well, that
wanted
came
to
later.
lie. Oh, that's later?
Oh, yeah, that came much later.
Okay.
All that juicy stuff came later. But 10 years later, I found out that the ACS gentleman that removed my children, Timothy Wu, had domestic violence issues against his wife. And he had an order of protection against him. And he couldn't even see his own son. So I'm like, wow, how does this guy work for the city? And he can come in and be around children when a parent can't be around their own children.
How does it feel to be a victim? He was a victim and he wanted to take it out on somebody?
Well, I think he took it out on
possibility?
What I honestly felt that he was jealous that I was a father and I had custody of my children. I think that was the issue. I really believe that.
Personal issues inside a court where they're not supposed to be any?
Well, inside somebody's home.
And how does one person, I don't know what his education was, I'm assuming he wasn't a doctor. I mean, he saw you for a total of what, probably 5 minutes in the house with the kids. And based on that decision, this one guy, Timothy Wu, takes away his children?
I know.
I mean, how do you...
Well, he made up all kind of things. He said that there was an extension cord running through the house. He said that I had electrical equipment. I'm an electronic person, but I had electrical equipment in a room that was dangerous to the children that was locked.
But even if they did think that was true, so tell you, Mr. Sutherland, we don't think this is safe. We're going to come back in a week or 2 weeks and clean up this electrical stuff and make sure.
Yeah.
Well, that came out in the second federal trial against the city of New York, is the fact that the Administration for Children's Services are supposed to provide preventive services before removing a child out of the home. A lot of people don't know this. They are supposed to circumvent removing the children first before they remove the children.
To take away something so severe, to take, you better be damn sure that you're doing the right thing, because there's no going back.
Right.
I mean, your kids, I mean, we're going to get into the whole story, and how does that not damage your children for the rest of their life?
They are damaged. They've been stigmatized from
to
this very day. They have issues.
Wow. I mean, I've met some of them, just their bonding issues, their faith in the system, that the justice. I mean, you want to teach kids, like you said, we all grew up with faith in the system. How are your kids going to grow up and believe in the system?
They don't.
They shouldn't respect it, honestly. You couldn't blame them for not respecting the system. But we'll get back to the rest of the story, because it's...
we're about halfway in, so we have time, but I want to be able to time your story so you get all of it in, because it's an important story. So
I was just saying, basically, that family court was a joke. They did the fact finding, they did the dispositional. The judge would not allow me to have my witnesses to say that I was a good dad and I was taking care of my children properly, and that my runaway daughter had a history of running away trying to live with her mother, and her mother wasn't quite ready to deal with a child. They ruled against me. They kept my children in foster care, and I was basically visiting them twice a week for an hour, supervised visits. And,
I think at some point you mentioned that once they realized that they screwed up and shouldn't have taken them, they were trying to find a way out, which was to get you to...
guess what? I don't believe that they were trying to find a way out, because they constantly covered it up.
Right.
Now, what they wanted to do is they brought up allegations that my oldest daughter, who was the runaway, that I sexually abused her. And they wanted me to take sexual abuse classes. They wanted me to go for high education. They wanted me to go for housing. They wanted to know what my finances were. And I just wouldn't cooperate with them. When they asked me, how do you make your money? I said, I go on the train and I do collections. I'm a panhandler. And that would even frustrate them more. And it was just back and forth. I just wouldn't, to me, that they were terrorists.
You weren't playing their game.
Right. They were terrorists, and I don't believe that we should. They really were
domestic terrorists.
Domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate them inflicting their oppression upon me.
I don't think anybody would. It was, you know, good that you did that.
And I actually think by playing their game and letting them do that, it would end up worse, because now they say, see, he's agreeing to all these things, he must be a bad parent.
Right.
And then you sort of feed into it, because then they say, look, we did the right thing. He agreed to do all these things. I think the fact that you fought it is why the result is...
It wasn't easy, though, because they dangled my kids like a carrot in front of me
That's
all the
important.
time.
Keep going with that, because that's
Oh,
important.
yes. They told me, well, look, if you want to get your kids out of foster care, we're not
This is
holding
how
them,
to
you're
do it.
holding them.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do. You need to go to the sexual abuse, and you need to admit. So I said, okay, you know what? Maybe you're right. Let's play it your way. So I decided to go to a doctor, and the doctor said, Dr. Burrell out of Brooklyn, and he's like a forensic
Psychologist or whatever.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And the first thing he told me is that you have to admit. I said, you know what? I guess our meeting is over, because I can't admit to something I didn't do.
Yeah,
and
hello.
I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
And walked out of his office. And they didn't know what to do with me, because they're used to dealing with people whose will is kind of beaten down, and who kind of, the type of people that give up on life real easy. And it just wasn't happening with me. I'm sorry. It just,
So how did you
I-
keep your will? I mean, it's got to be hard. You got to be sitting there thinking, am I doing the right decision? You know, is it going to end up well?
Well, of
or-
course it's right, because
He has a
it's
matter
like,
of conscience. This is conscious.
Right.
He has a
But
stronger
when some,
conscience.
but that's why people sometimes
Well, it's
you know,
just like a
admit to
cop.
things they don't do.
well, no, it's like a cop pulling you over saying you ran the light and there's no light there. You're not going to agree to it.
But a lot of times people do, you know, domestic, you know, they come with the domestic violence and they say, hey, did you hit her? You say no. They go, well, look, just sign this agreement saying that you did it. Doesn't really mean that much, but then you can see your kid supervised. And then you go, you know
I
what?
just think I have a higher principle standard than those type of people.
Right. I don't know, or it's a
I don't have
stronger
nothing
will.
else, but I
Well, it
have
might be
that.
a stronger will or a stronger belief. you
Well,
know.
definitely a belief played a role. Definitely I knew that the Creator was back behind me 100%, and I was going to get my kids back.
With the start to finish, you're talking about what, 8 years, you said?
About 8 years.
And although you do have the kids back, there's damage.
They came back with issues. They didn't all come back at one time. They came back one at a
Were
time.
they separated at the time? Were they all together?
They were all in different homes all over the whole
Oh, my
city
God.
of New York.
How did you get through
Okay,
that?
the Bronx. They were in Manhattan. They were in Brooklyn.
So they didn't even have
were
their
out-
siblings.
They were out here in Long Island.
No.
And, 2 children were out in Freeport. They tried to put one of my sons in the hospital, in the psycho ward. I had to threaten to sue the hospital to get my
Do you
son
know that
out.
I've had over the years, I've had 2 foster care workers partially tell me stories without name and number. This is not my phone. I'm going to partially tell you what happened. The corruption that existed in the foster care system. I've heard it from 2 people. They just call up, they watch the show, and if we do an alienation program or a Child Protective Service, I get a call, and they won't tell me who they are. I ask them, please, you know, say, you have to do this. You have to open up that can of worms. They won't do
the
it.
corruption is
They won't
is
do
off
it,
the hook.
but they know that they're willing to state that. The
First of all, you got to look at this.
exists.
I know both sides.
It's acquisition game.
These people, they get a job, you know, they go to school, they get their whatever associate's degree,
Yeah.
they finally get a job, they're working at an agency, and the money starts to get good to them. They buy a house, they have a car, they're putting their children through private school, and they don't want to lose that.
But I think they
So
know what the agency
They make
wants.
us the sacrificial lambs.
But I think they know what they want. Their job is to remove children, really.
Yes,
because
they
if,
make money off of removing
if they don't remove children, the system falls apart.
That's right.
So
It's
They
a
have
money
to do
thing.
it.
I believe there's an
You
incentive
fell
to
into
remove
that.
children.
Yeah. Would you say that he probably fell into
Yeah,
that?
I think and I think honestly, I think the fact that he's an African American, they go, you know what? He's got 6 kids in an apartment. We don't like this. Nobody's going to feel sorry for
In
this
the
guy.
projects.
Exactly, the
And they
project.
figured I was
Take away.
uneducated, and I don't claim
He's
to be
never going to fight it
educated.
back.
Yeah,
He has no money
exactly.
for a lawyer.
That's
What's
right.
this guy
Right.
going to do?
Right.
They'll roll over.
This
and now
is
we
our
got,
fear in every area, right?
and now we got. They didn't know what
Family
they stepped into, but you know.
And what I did do is I sat down and I got on the internet, because the internet back then, back in '97, was more people-based. Now the internet is lawyer-based, so you can't really get information unless you get it from a legal perspective. But before, it used to be a people perspective.
Did you dig it, you mean to the CPS or to foster care? or-
CPS and how to fight them, how to protect your rights, understanding your rights, the Constitution, what the Fourth Amendment was all about, the right to due process, equal protection under the law. All these things got banged into my head. Every night, instead of imagining my kids were running through the house,
You're working through this.
I'm working on the internet. I went through maybe 7 or 8 computers. They mysteriously blew up. on me. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It was a whole lot. There was a whole type of opposition.
I hear conspiracy there somewhere.
Yes, it was definitely a conspiracy.
Right.
I can tell you that even at the visitation dates at the agency, they would have me show up and the children wouldn't show up. And they would, I later found out, they were telling the children, your dad doesn't want to see you. So they would tell me Tuesday, and they would bring the children there Wednesday or Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah, even on their birthday, when I brought a big cake for my twins, guess what? My children didn't show up because the foster mom broke her back. Next week, she was there. I says, wow,
broken back injury, healed up fast. Wow, amazing.
In a week's time. So they did all types of tricks and to try to discourage me and to figure that I was just going to go away. I had one supervisor from the agency, Edwin Gould, for Children's Services, tell me, just make some more children. Can you believe that? These are the type of things.
I hope he was joking, you know.
No, it was a she, and she wasn't joking. He was serious.
How do you how do you end up getting him back? I mean, after so much time.
After I realized that family court was a joke and I wasn't getting anywhere, and I dismissed 2 court-appointed attorneys because they were just allowing things to happen and nothing was happening in my favor. It was all happening against me. What I did is I decided to file a federal lawsuit against the whole city of New York and judges. 5 minutes left. Go ahead, keep getting that. And 4, I think it was 5 judges, maybe 8 to 10 caseworkers, foster moms, everybody whose name I knew, I named them in a lawsuit. And that's when they started to take me serious. And they wanted to sit down and they wanted to plan.
Shotgun lawsuit. Gary,
so
you got to remember that.
But you got, I mean, because we only had, there's a lot that went on.
Yeah.
So
well, a lot of stuff went on, and eventually they were trying to work with me now. Now the plan is reunification. Before it was termination. Now it's reunification.
Didn't your attorney say there was a 300, did I get this right, $300 million suit?
That was in the first lawsuit, the federal lawsuit.
$300 million.
But it took us 16 years to get to that level. To hear a trial. It took us 16 years. They did everything. They dismissed the case. I had to appeal the case, and the case got remanded back, and then we finally had a trial. 16 years later.
Wow.
I never got discovery when I first filed my lawsuit. The day before that first trial, the city comes in with maybe 2,000 papers of discovery.
But you did get a judgment. You got a judgment in your favor?
I got a judgment on the second trial.
For that's the 300 million?
No, the first trial was 300 million, but the judge tossed that trial, and then we had a second trial, and then it brought it down where each of the children got 85,000, and I get 10,000.
Can you imagine $10,000 for 8 years of losing your children?
So now we're appealing that, and that's going through the appeal now. This is the 3rd appeal in the Second Circuit for the Court of Appeals.
Did you ever think that they might just be waiting for you to croak or something like that?
Yes, they are, waiting for a satellite to hit me on the head.
Listen, the lawyers always say,
you play a beanbag when you're not looking.
But when you're fighting the system like this, and I think people should know this, you got to be very careful who you see in terms of your health, what you eat, where you eat at, and the people around you, because they will set you up. They will definitely set you up. And that's not a conspiracy. That's the truth.
No, this is not only a true story that you're telling, it also what is it, the Our Time Press, which I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, that's a local paper out of Brooklyn, New York.
Did a great job telling the whole story. And do you have that available that if somebody wants to hear more about the story or read this article, how would they do it?
Well, I would suggest that they contact you and have you contact me.
Sure, throw it back.
Yeah, because because the program that you're doing here is very good, and I hear that the court systems out here on the island are off the hook, and the people need to know this.
Absolutely,
they need to know before they walk into the court what to expect, and not to go into court and get beat up. Because a lot of people get beat up, and their will is broken down, and they suffer in silence. They don't tell anybody. Remember, I told you in the beginning, when this happened to me, I was on the phone all night long until I can get somebody that could tell me something. And I think people should talk about this, and people should communicate this.
You needed a lot of perseverance, like I said in the opening. You needed a lot of stamina to get through all that, because these are places you don't call up ordinarily. You don't call up and say, hey, by the way, what's my Child Protective Services guy doing this weekend? What if we can go out for a beer?
What I didn't,
you know,
I didn't call politicians. I grew up with a lot of local politicians in Brooklyn, and I knew they were full of it, so they couldn't help me. I called up people that knew a little bit about the Constitution, about the law, and how to go about this type of thing.
Very good that you chase your own stuff down.
Yeah.
What I think is amazing about the story, and we listen to the story, and it's a horrible story, but it's interesting to listen to, and you know, we hear the story. But I think what the viewer should take is your perseverance, that you never ever gave up. You believed in a higher power, and this is happening for a reason. That you never gave up, that you fought, and I give you a lot of credit.
Well, thank you
for that.
No disrespect to the higher power, but those are my kids. I'm not just going to walk away from my children.
But you could
like
have caved and said, you know what, I'm just going to sign for the short term. You went for the long term, and I think just as important is that you took what Chris has done and what I've been trying to do is make something good out of this. Say, you know what, maybe this happened for a reason, and you started an organization, the People's Advocacy Group,
Yes.
where you helped.
Which is what I did.
Yes.
Right, so you took this and said, you know what, I'm going to try to prevent this from happening to other people.
Well,
you can't stop it from happening to your
People
kids.
should realize that they are going to fall down. I fell down a few times, but get back up.
Yeah, see, that's it.
Just like a baby, when a baby first starts to walk, they fall.
But you need somebody there to
cry.
pick them up, and that's what Chris does. That's what you're doing.
Right.
You need somebody there to pick them
Doing
up.
this program,
You can't
helps
do it
to pick
alone.
people up,
I'm
and
hoping,
people need
yeah.
to communicate.
Yeah.
They need to talk about it. They need to verbalize it. And one other thing: don't talk to people that haven't experienced this, because people on the
Don't understand.
outside don't understand.
We just talked
They're
about that
gonna
in the
tell you
prior show we
all
had.
types of
People
craziness.
don't get it,
Yeah,
and
they don't
you're
get
not
it.
going to be able to tell that
That's
whole
right.
entire story. People will fall asleep after
Right.
19 seconds.
But I think what
They do
people
on
should
TV.
say is that what you did was you went right to you went to
Followed
the
it
federal
up.
court, and that's where you got things from the federal court, and that's something that they should
Right.
talk to Chris. Go to the People's Advocacy Group, FIT TV. You got to. The federal court is an avenue that a lot of lawyers don't tell people to take, and it is something that you can do to get justice.
Thanks,
Yes, it
Gary
is.
Jacobs, for helping us out, and thank
Yeah,
you very
and
much,
thank you,
Sonny
Gary.
Sutherland.
He's been a friend too.
Yes, okay, and I hope
Real
I'm
friend.
in that
And
same
brother.
group too.
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay, so
And I
yeah,
appreciate being on the program.
come to our site, which is coming up pretty soon, and also to get to him, you can listen to GoProRadio.com. We the People is the name of the program, right, Sonny?
Yes, every Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Thanks very much. Great story. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you can't get this information on your own. I'm trying to hurry. So we'll bring it to you TV every single week. My name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me 11 bucks. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Introducing the all-new Enclave. It's a minivan to the max, with features like remote control sliding rear doors, 150 cable channels, a full sky view roof, temperature-controlled cup holders, and the 6-point navigation system. It's the minivan for families on the go.